Hi, Tommy Heffernan, Precision Microbes here, and welcome back to Tech in 10. Today we're going to do automated calf feeders, some top tips. So here we go, 10 minutes. A lot of people are asking about Precision Microbes and automated feeders because it works really well, but I want to talk about some top tips I think that are really important with automated feeders. Starting with, I suppose, are automated feeders good or bad? It depends farm to farm. Most farmers I see who putting them in, manage them correctly, are really happy with them. Some of the top tips I would say is backup service, because like any piece of technology, they need to be, I suppose, serviced regularly each year as a minimum, put in properly. And when you have a problem, you need to pick up someone on the phone. That's probably the most important thing when we think about automated feeders. Then when we think about the position in the shed, that's really key. So the positioning of the feeder, the positioning of the stations, especially when we think about drainage, that's absolutely important. So often the question comes up, my art is terrible, but how many calves do we put on the feeder? The standard people will talk about is 25 calves or less. People do put more, but the problem is when you put a lot of calves onto a feeder, they end up queuing at certain times of the day, particularly young calves. It leads to bullying. And what do those calves do? They associate the feeder with, they have little amount of time, vigorous sucking. You can see bloat because of that. So number of calves is less than 25. These are some of the things I've seen issues with. Water is another really important thing. So when you've automated calf feeders, remember, we're putting in water, we're putting in milk powder, we're heating it up to, between 38 to 42 degrees, depending on the machine. So if you've got bugs in your water coming into that feeder, it's really, really important you have clean water. So if we're using things like header tanks that are sitting in the corner of the shed, just testing water at source going into the feeder. A lot of the companies who are doing a good job in this space will test water, but then it's up to you to test it annually to make sure water is not an issue. Obviously, the correct powder, we've done other videos and that's really important. Look, they also give you really good data, be it calves not drinking, but even slow drinking. If you're seeing a lot of slow drinkers, it can be an issue with pipes, tubes, or the feeder itself in calibration. The data is very useful. You still need to look at calves as well. I think positioning of this is kind of a simple one, but 80% plus of calf feces and urine will be created during feeding, meaning drainage around the actual feeder is really key. And that takes us in kind of, I suppose, to the next thing I would say that's really important with feeders is calibration. So people will be familiar with this little bowl that the water and the powder is mixed in. That's really important because that calibration can go off, and even temperature, the correct temperature. And a very simple tool for checking this, some tools will auto calibrate, but if you've got a refractometer and you're measuring colostrum quality on farm, you can actually look at that as well. So if you're feeding 125 grams to a liter, you can check the refractometer that it's mixing correctly at 12.5%. And I think if you've got a refractometer, it's something I would regularly do, because most of the issues I see with automated feeders can be around calibration. The newer machines are getting better in that space with automatic calibration, but it's very useful. Again, if you have 150 grams per liter, if that's what it's feeding, it's 15% on your Brix refractometer. It's a useful little thing. So temperature, like we said it a million times in these Tech in 10 videos, consistency is what calves love. Automated feeders will give you consistency, but they're not absolutely foolproof. So drainage is important. Number 7, teat management. So obviously, one of the challenges with automated feeders from a disease perspective is every single calf is coming to one point. So regularly changing teats is really key. Teat management. Some of the modern machines have actually got a flushing system that cleans teats, but you need to change them regularly. And I would say that always have a spare teat or two, because when you watch these teats, they tend to flatten a lot very quickly. Just keep an eye on teats. Teat management is absolutely key. The next thing we look at, the automated system, is we have a lot of pipes, particularly the pipe that's coming from the machine up into the teat. Having good wash cycles. So, for example, just from a machine I know, JC has 4 automatic wash cycles. A lot of the modern machines will have regular wash cycles. Now, that will require a detergent, or generally a detergent. It can either be alkaline or acids. Just make sure that the detergent is the correct one and it's at the correct temperature. So different machines will have different temperatures and wash cycles, and that the detergent matches the challenge. In fairness again to your automated teat feeder machines or companies, they will recommend the detergent, but it's an important thing because you've got hot water and milk sitting in these lines. It's really important we keep them clean. And just regularly checking all lines yourself is a simple to-do task that's easy. The beautiful thing about automated feeders is you can create a nice feeding curve with them. Again, this is something you can do yourself, or you can do with the help of a technician. So what we're looking for with a feeding curve is getting to on the right amount of milk, up to, say, a lot of farms are going to minimum probably 6, but certainly 8 litres or more. And with that feeding curve, have a drop down. Now, some of them will drop down every 4 days. So if you're peaking at 8, it'll drop down to 6, 4, 2, and 0. It depends. But getting that feeding curve right. The question that comes up all the time is, what age should a calf go onto the feeder at? And I would certainly say, what I'm finding is between 5 and 7 days seems to be a sweet spot. People are doing it earlier. People are doing it later. It'll depend, but there is training involved. You'll need a training pen. You'll have to spend a bit of work getting that calf onto that teat with a training pen. But if you can get them on early and you have a good quality replacer, a nice feeding curve, and you look after all these things, it can make a huge difference. Now, we do get a lot of questions about Precision Microbes, pro and postbiotic liquids going through automated feeders. First of all, how? It is a liquid, so you do require a liquid dispenser. And the rough cost of them are between 700 to 900 euros, depending on the machine. They can be retrofitted. You do need a liquid dispenser. So it is a cost, but what we're seeing is, remember, a calf is coming from whole milk onto milk replacer. They're all coming to this one point and challenge. There's a couple of things that I find that the calves going on to, because if they're on Precision Microbes beforehand, they transition very nicely onto the automated feeder. We see less digestive upsets because that pure transition period is a challenge. And we see all the benefits around growth rates, less digestive upsets, improved recovery. So it's a really nice tool that offsets the challenges with automatic feeders. The dose rate stays the same. It's 30 mils per calf per day. Now, depending on the feeder system, sometimes they need to be recalibrated in the back of the system, because sometimes with your Phosphotechnic or your Urbans, they can switch off one station when another one's feeding, so that can be overcome. Sometimes they'll feed 10 mils per feed per day, or some of them will feed the whole amount in one feed. It doesn't really matter once they're getting that 30 mils a day. And the benefits, again, is optimizing digestion, reducing that stress during feeding. So Precision Microbes, a game changer again. I think it's a great tool in the automated feeders. A couple of things to watch out for in this space that I've been looking at is genetics. So we were involved with a trial recently where we actually saw a difference in genetics of calves going on and sucking. I think that's an interesting space. Are some of the calves were breeding more suitable to feeders or not? I think if I was thinking what might be happening in 10 years' time, I think we'll see automated feeding definitely increasing. But I think actually machines that can actually feed whole milk automated through the machine is something that I would be certainly considering and thinking about on farm. And then you have these individualized automated feeders. They're like big arms going into individual pens. And there is an argument out there that each calf will have a different level of feeding, maybe appetite. And this kind of prescriptive individual calf feeding with the individual automated feeding arm, I think is something of interest. But get the basics right. Calibration, hygiene, regularly checking teats, putting microbes in there as a tool to aid that transition. And I think that makes a huge difference. So they're kind of my top tips on automated feeders. Busy whiteboard this morning.